The ground shook beneath the heavy wheels of the military convoy as it rumbled across the desolate battlefield, a barren stretch of earth that had been pulverized by years of conflict. Thunderclouds loomed ominously, streaks of light splitting the sky as Black Hawk helicopters sliced through the air above, their rotors a constant thrum of reassurance. Captain James Reaper Carson gripped his rifle tighter, his eyes scanning the horizon from behind his helmet's tinted visor. He was a man hardened by years of war, a veteran of countless operations that had taken him from the sweltering jungles of Southeast Asia to the unforgiving deserts of the Middle East. Today, he and his men were leading a high-risk recon mission deep into the Nevada Exclusion Zone, a region declared off-limits after the event 6 months prior, a cataclysmic explosion that had leveled the small town of Gray Ridge. What had caused the explosion remained a mystery, though whispers of extraterrestrial involvement had spread like wildfire through the ranks. Carson didn't believe in little green men, but he couldn't shake the gnawing unease in his gut. Intelligence reports spoke of unusual energy readings and visual anomalies in the area, bureaucratic buzzwords that didn't sit well with him. "Eyes sharp, boys," Carson barked through his radio headset. "This is likely another chemical spill or some leftover ordnance. No reason to get jumpy." Sergeant Miller, a wiry soldier with a perpetual smirk, chuckled as he adjusted his tactical goggles. "No aliens today, huh, Captain?" Carson shot him a glare that silenced the banter. He wanted his team focused. They weren't rookies, they were some of the best soldiers the U.S. military had to offer. But Carson knew better than to let complacency creep into their ranks. The convoy halted near the edge of a jagged ravine. From their elevated position, they could see strange marks carved into the desert floor, intricate patterns too precise to have been formed by nature. A chill passed through the team as they climbed out of their vehicles, boots sinking slightly into the damp soil, a strange occurrence given the arid location. "Lieutenant Reyes, get me a scan," Carson ordered. Reyes, the team's tech specialist, swung his tablet around and activated a portable scanner. A low hum filled the air as the device swept the ground. Seconds later, Reyes paled. "Sir, I'm picking up massive radiation spikes coming from below us. These readings don't match anything in the database. It's unnatural." "Define unnatural, Lieutenant." Before Reyes could answer, a deafening screech pierced the air, sending the entire squad to their knees as they clamped their hands over their ears. The ground beneath them began to tremble violently, as if something colossal was awakening from slumber. Carson roared, "Back to the vehicles. Move." The team sprinted toward the trucks as an immense fissure split the ground, jagged cracks racing outward like veins of lightning. From the depths of the earth, a blinding light surged skyward, illuminating the dark clouds above. The noise intensified, a cacophony of grinding metal and alien howls, and then, silence. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of labored breathing and the crackle of distant lightning. Then it appeared. The creature, no, the thing, emerged slowly, its form indescribable and wrong, as though it defied the laws of physics. It shimmered, translucent yet solid, a hulking behemoth that towered 3 stories high. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, shifting constantly between jagged angles and impossibly smooth curves. The soldiers stared, frozen by the sight of something their minds struggled to comprehend. "Captain," Miller whispered hoarsely. What is that?" Before Carson could respond, the creature released another ear-splitting screech, its elongated limbs twitching unnaturally as it turned toward them. Carson's training kicked in. "Open fire." Suppressing rounds, the soldiers unleashed a torrent of gunfire, their weapons flashing brightly as bullets tore through the air. But the creature seemed unfazed. The rounds passed through its body as though it were mist, causing it to shimmer and distort but leaving no visible damage. "What the hell?" Reyes screamed. "It's not solid." The creature lunged forward, moving with terrifying speed. One swipe of its limbs sent an armored truck tumbling like a child's toy, the sound of crumpling metal filling the air. Carson watched helplessly as 2 soldiers were caught in the blast radius, their bodies flung dozens of yards away. "Fall back. Regroup." Carson yelled, his voice hoarse as he tried to rally his men. The team scattered, taking cover behind whatever debris they could find. Carson reloaded his rifle, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. He'd been in plenty of firefights, but nothing had prepared him for this. This wasn't war. It was survival against something beyond human understanding. Reyes, you said it's not solid. How do we kill this thing? Carson shouted over the comms. Reyes crouched behind a nearby truck, his face illuminated by the glow of his tablet. Sir, the energy readings. It's like the creature's made of pure electromagnetic radiation. Conventional weapons won't work. Then what will? Carson demanded. Before Reyes could answer, the creature let out a guttural roar, its body glowing brighter as it advanced again. Carson watched in horror as the light emanating from it warped the air around it, pulling nearby objects, tires, debris, even fragments of the trucks, into its mass. It's absorbing matter, Reyes screamed. We have to get out of here. Carson's mind raced. They couldn't retreat without a plan. If this thing got loose, it would spread its destruction far beyond the exclusion zone. He glanced toward the wrecked convoy, spotting a pair of anti-air missile launchers that had been knocked loose during the chaos. An idea formed. Miller, is on me, Carson ordered as he sprinted toward the launchers. We're taking this thing down. The soldiers hesitated for only a moment before following their captain. Carson slammed the controls on the launcher, activating its manual targeting system. The missiles were designed for aircraft, but with a little luck, they might destabilize the creature. Reyes, we need to target its energy core, find it. Reyes worked frantically on his scanner, sweat dripping down his face. The center mass. It's where the energy converges. Carson adjusted the launcher, locking onto the target. The creature turned toward them, as if sensing the threat, its limbs stretching out like grotesque claws. Hurry, Captain! Miller shouted, firing his rifle to draw its attention. Carson gritted his teeth. Firing! The missile launched with a deafening roar, streaking through the air toward the creature. The impact was immediate, a blinding explosion that consumed the creature in fire and smoke. Carson shielded his eyes, the force of the blast knocking him backward. For a moment he dared to hope. But as the smoke cleared, the creature remained, though its form flickered erratically. It let out a roar of anger, or pain, as its body rippled, destabilized. It's working, Reyes shouted. Another hit might finish it. Carson didn't hesitate. He reloaded the launcher and fired again, the second missile streaking through the air. This time, the explosion tore through the creature's core, its body convulsing violently as tendrils of light shot skyward. The creature let out one final screech before collapsing inward, its form imploding into a vortex of energy. The ground trembled as the light vanished, leaving nothing but silence. Carson sat up slowly, his ears ringing. The battlefield was unrecognizable, a landscape of twisted metal and scorched earth. Around him, the surviving soldiers began to rise, their faces pale with shock. Captain, Miller said, his voice trembling. Is it gone? Carson stood, scanning the horizon. The fissure had sealed itself, leaving no trace of the creature or the battle. The storm clouds began to dissipate, sunlight breaking through for the first time in hours. For now, Carson said quietly. But I don't think this is over. He turned to Reyes. Get me a full report on what we saw here. I want every scan, every reading. Reyes nodded, though his expression was grim. Sir, this wasn't an isolated event. If that creature was a scout, there could be more. Carson stared at the empty sky, the weight of the moment settling over him. He had spent his life fighting enemies he could see, men with guns, tanks, and planes. But this was something else entirely. Then we'll be ready, he said, more to himself than anyone else. As the surviving soldiers regrouped and began the long journey back to base, Carson couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just crossed a threshold, one they could never return from. The war they had been preparing for was no longer against each other. It was against something far greater.